Earlier, I spoke about the different operating systems that are at play right now that are dominant in designing. Now, I'm taking from Ken Wilber's work with integral theory and also my lifetime of experience, particularly the past 20 years as a designer and instructor of design. So there are many archetypes that are prominent. I'm going to talk about the three that make up about, in some cases, 60 to 80% of our population, depending on the country. So one of them is mythic beliefs. The second is intuitive relative. The third is rational analytical. So these are all existing at the same time, and they're basically levels of consciousness. They have their own attributes and qualities. So the mythic beliefs is authoritarian. It is very based on literal and fixed interpretation of beliefs and a concept even of fate. It focuses on identity and worldviews. We're actually going to go to rational, even though I said that third. What I want to say about that one is that it's very analytical. We can relate it to neoliberalism, the capitalist society, and the scientific community. So rational is very logical and linear thinking, and it thinks in if-then statements. It focuses on objects and outcomes. And then the third one is intuitive relative, which is much more about egalitarianism. It's where we start, thinking about inclusion and equality. It's very anti-hierarchical and is process-driven rather than outcome-driven. So both the mythic authoritarian and the intuitive relative egalitarian have a little bit of resisting using design processes. It's a very inner knowingness that does come from a sense of spirituality or religion or intuition. And so a lot of my observations are that there's a group of people who come into design with a tendency towards resisting or even rebelling against design processes. Then on the other side, both the mythic beliefs authoritarian and the rational analytical, which is very science-driven, tends towards more predicting and controlling of design processes, where there's a very specific desired outcome or a desired process, and you're going to move through it and predict and control. Now, I understand the scientific theory avoids that methodology, but in essence, in a way, we could say that our conditioning leads us to controlling the general perception or both the quantitative and qualitative results of studies. This is very outer focused. It's an outer knowingness where you're looking at objects. So there's more of like a materialism and object identification. Now, moving to a more integrated space, which Ken Wilber calls integral theory, I like to call it holistic or emergent, has to do with an other knowingness. So in a sense, with the mythic beliefs, it's very I-focused or it's very group-focused. Like my needs are being met and my community's needs or my race and my religion. Whereas rational analytical is much more about we are connected by the fact that we're a human species, so there's this sense of other or sort of third person. We as a species have these laws that we abide by. The intuitive relative goes beyond just the sense of we are a species. It connects to sort of the suffering or the interspecies connection. But there's this sense of distrust of authoritarianism and neoliberal capitalism, scientific relativeness, that the intuitive relative sometimes gets stuck in as like a sense of judgment. So a more integral approach is looking at all three, and even beyond these three, qualities and attributes of consciousness, and being able to observe and interact with them, being able to look at the qualities that we can harness as tools, because in any particular situation there might be an appropriate use of that thinking, and really move beyond judging these levels and think of them more as an integrated way that we are evolving, and that each step in our evolution is absolutely necessary to get us to this now moment. So integral, holistic, emergent level of consciousness is what presence and acceptance and letting go and all these things that I was talking about before, they exist within an integral framework. Thank you.